Hello?
All right, it's another edition, a live edition of 11,000 and Counting. I am your host, as usual, to my virtual left, as always, Matthew Watson. Let's start things off as we always do here. We got this is going to change for another several months, a half a year from now. So, Philly's all time loss counter is at 11,259 wins or losses. They're at
Beautiful.
10,112 wins. But that's where they're going to stay. Postseason doesn't affect that. But I think we can all say that we're feeling pretty good heading into what we now know is a wild card series against the Miami Marlins. Matt, how weird is that?
If you had told me before the season started that the Phillies would make the playoffs, I would have believed you. If you had told me before the season started the Marlins would have made the playoffs, I would not have believed you. If you had told me before the season started that the Phillies would be hosting the Marlins in round one of the playoffs, I would not have believed you. But hey, this is where we're at. Phillies finished second in the East, the Marlins finished third. The Mets did not make the playoffs. Just a little sweet flavoring on top of that. But hey, the Marlins have given us their fair share of trouble. But I think overall that this is a team that we can beat. So bring them on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get into that as we go on here. But I think first we're going to go through everything from the season. 162 games is always a long way to go. So let's break it down a little bit. And why don't we start with today's game? Today was a palate cleanser, a final hoorah, readying ourselves for the postseason. Of course, a 9-1 victory over the Mets on the final day of the season. Uh, there were some good things from this game. First off, Nick Nelson, thank you for coming. Your first appearance of the year, and you did pretty good.
Yeah, man.
Love it. He'll get a ring if anything were to happen. But also, there was some slump busting today. There were some Phillies that just weren't down, and guys that we're going to depend on for heading into the postseason that we need to get right. So first off, we had Bryson Stott. Bryson Stott went 3 for 4 today. Since the last time he had a multi-hit game, which was September 17th, he was hitting 118 with a 167 on base and a 147 slugging coming into today. And then today he goes 3 for 4 with a double and a walk. That's a great way to get more back on pace. They need it from Bryson Stott, who has just been a great aspect of the Phillies season.
He was their breakout player this year. I mean, not that there was a lot of guys on the team who you could necessarily would have a breakout season, but between the season that Marsh, Bohm, and Stott, all produced this year, all had great seasons. But I would say that Stott, out of those three, really had the giant leap from year one to year two. Um, and especially early on, like Stott was the best hitter on the Phillies for like the first, I want to say 3, 4 months of the season
He had a
before
17
Schwarber
game
really got
hitting
going.
streak, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it was even maybe a little higher than that,
Might
but
have been more.
he
Yeah.
was he was hitting leadoff for us. We all arguing that Stott should be the leadoff hitter, not Schwarber. But just the lead that Bryson Stott took, not even offensively but defensively as well. He moved over from shortstop to second base once they signed Trey Turner, and not that I thought he would struggle at second base by any means, but he's gonna be a Gold Glove finalist at second base this year in his first full season as a second baseman. So I would not be shocked to see if he would bring home some hardware. He's gonna have some stiff competition, but overall, I think Bryson Stott was just he was really just one of the many bright spots for the Phillies this year.
No, absolutely. Again, it's shocking that he at one point he was hitting over 300. He was like 309 consistently. One of the top hitters in the National League. But he just slumped a little bit at the end, kind of like what we saw in May when he kind of cooled off initially.
Mhm.
But again, picked it up where it was like, oh, this guy could be a second base all star. But no, it's great that they had such a young guy there with great defense. He could win a Gold Glove at second base. We have to see. Definitely will be a finalist. I'd be shocked if he isn't.
I would agree. I would agree.
Another guy who broke another bad streak was Brandon Marsh, who also since 9-17 he was hitting 120 with a 333 on base and a 320 on slugging percentage. He did have a good couple of games against the Mets before this, but he went 2 for 5 with a home run tonight. And that's good to see out of Marsh because he was struggling to begin that month. Um, but another guy who really early on was who was fueling the Phillies.
Marsh was like the best hitter in baseball after the month of April. And he kept his, I don't know how, but he kept his on base percentage above 800 for the entire season. And I do think that him not playing against lefties every day kind of maybe contributed to that a little bit. But I mean, Brandon Marsh just all like an 830 OPS for a guy who was kind of just given away by the Angels last year at the deadline because they didn't think he could hit. They knew he was a great fielder, but yeah, man, he just the way he stepped up offensively, 277 average, 12 homers, 60 RBIs. I mean, I just think it was a nice leap from Brandon Marsh, and he was a guy who we were kind of saying like last year in the playoffs, he was like platooning with Vierling, and we knew both like at that time we thought both guys would be splitting coming, into 2023. We dealt Vierling, obviously, but no, Marsh was again. It was the young guys really in the beginning of the year that kept the Phillies in the hunt because without Stott, without Marsh, without Bohm, I mean, Schwarber was struggling. Harper wasn't there for the first month and a half, 2 months, and then when he did come back, he wasn't hitting for power. Um, I mean, Castellanos was good in I think it's what even months Castellanos was raking, and odd months he was doing bad, or vice versa. But Castellanos had a hot start, then he would cool off, then he would be hot, and then he would cool off. So, yeah, no, it was just really nice to see that stuff from Brandon Marsh. And I do think that his playing time has diminished a little bit because of some of his slumping at the plate. But then again, Johan Rojas has just been fantastic for the Phillies since being called up. So I think that does have something to do with it. But overall, very happy with the way Brandon Marsh finished out his 2023 season.
Oh yeah, Johan Rojas, that's another person that we're going to address completely because he deserves his own minute or so. But the other guy let's bring up that I wanted to say about slump busting was Alec Boehm. Alec Boehm was 0 for 17 coming in today's game. He needed to have a good game to get himself right for playoffs. And what does he do? He goes 2 for 4 and he hits his 20th home run of the season. We were talking about Alec Boehm finally tapping into some power. Now, that's not the type of power you would expect from someone who's like 6'7" or 6'5", however tall he is. But he's a big dude and he's finally hit 20 home runs while still hitting what, like about 277, something about that. Very
274 batting
respectable.
average. Yep.
274. But, it was great to see that from Alec Boehm and what I thought was pretty good defense at third this year. Like, I thought it was more than acceptable. At times, he was making plays that you wouldn't expect him to make. So it's just nice to see that there is an evolution here. It's not staying stagnant. There is, whether it's coaching or, you know, other sort of development or, just nutrition, whatever's going on behind the scenes, it's working.
Yeah, and he played a lot of first base. Like,
He
I
did.
mean, it wasn't like he was just focusing on third. He had to flip over to first base for a while there after the Hoskins and Hall injuries. So not only was he trying to develop as a third baseman, but it's now, hey, Alec, we need you to play first base tonight. And he played
Okay,
first
I
base
will.
very well too. So like it was pretty solid. And one of the things with Bohm is that like I was rewatching the Cardinals series, right? And during that series, I kind of forgot that we would take out Bohm late in games to put in Mundo Sosa. So like now, like heading into this playoff, I don't want to take out Bohm at any point in the game. Like I don't feel like that's necessary. So
No, and
his
Sosa's
defense
not
has
been
stepped
that
up.
great of a third baseman.
He's
He's a
not.
great
No,
shortstop. A great shortstop. But
agreed.
at third base, he's really not that great. I think Bohm actually has a little bit more range. And I think that might be more of a height kind of thing. He's able to snare some of those line drives that are, right at his head because he is, again, I believe 6'5". That sounds right.
He's a tall guy. That's all I know.
But no, you can actually have confidence at the hot corner,
Hmm.
which is a change of pace. The only big defense problem we had this year was Kyle Schwarber.
Well, your
Well,
shortstop
okay.
had over 20 errors.
Yeah, I know. I know. But he did turn things around. Trey Turner, If you looked at his numbers, not the defense, we're not talking about that.
Nah, we'll
If
ignore that.
you were to look at his stats from this year, here they are right now. You tell me if this was at least acceptable first year as a Philadelphia Philly. He went he hit 266, a 320 on base percentage, and a 459 slugging. So that's a 778 OPS, 26 home runs, 102 runs scored, and on top of all of that, he set the record for most steals without being caught ever,
Yeah.
and by a large margin. Chase Utley was number 2, going 23 for 23 in '09. He went 30 for 30.
Like
So
ESPN documentary.
yeah, no, he's got it. It matches. It has to be done.
Honestly,
There,
with the whole ovation and everything, he might get an ESPN 30 for 30. I don't know if they still make those.
I that's a good question. I have no idea if they do.
If anybody in the chat knows if they still make ESPN 30 for 30s, please let me know because
And tell us what the latest one was.
yeah,
I
there you go.
remember there was like one about Ric Flair from like 2, 3 years ago.
Yeah, was
But
that even a 30 for 30 though, or is that just a regular documentary?
good point. Anyway, so what would you say? What would you grade Trey Turner out as for those stats specifically?
I mean, for those specifically, maybe like a B plus. Just because you're handpicking little things, and plus I know the other stuff in the back of my
I'm just
mind.
ignoring the defense. It's
The
not
defense,
hand
I
picking.
mean, honestly, if Trey, I'm not saying he had to hit the clip that he did after the standing ovation, but if he had hit remotely close to that for the entire year, his numbers would have been fantastic.
Oh,
Um,
they would have been MVP level.
yeah,
He
I mean,
would
he
have been,
resurrected them late in the year,
yeah,
but you
like
know,
he absolutely turned it around as people just got behind him.
mhm.
It was probably, honestly, I think it's the Phillies story of the year
Might be
because,
baseball's story of the year.
um, I don't know if it is specifically. I'd have to think about that a bit. I guess Acuna's your story of the year with 40 home runs, 70 stolen
Yeah, I
bases.
don't want to hear about Acuna.
Yeah, well, we'll hear about it if we get past the fish. So, but uh, I'm trying to think other guys. Of course, some major stars retiring this year, or at least supposed to be retiring. Miguel Cabrera,
Hmm.
one of the greats of the game, of course, the last player to win a triple crown in baseball, which is not an easy feat. He, of course, will be heading to the Hall of Fame on a first
For
ballot.
sure, for
He had
sure.
a double today, and then he tagged up on a short fly ball.
Yay!
Who doesn't love Miggy?
Love Miguel Cabrera. Dude is class act.
Oh, absolutely. I actually cheered for like the 2012 Tigers when the Phillies were out of it. I was like, you know what? I like this team. This team's cool.
Who they
But
played? They played Cardinals?
no, the Giants.
Giants, yeah.
It
That
was
was
one of
back
the
in
even
the
year.
even years, yeah.
Do you remember the specific date that Turner got the ovation? Was it
Trey
against
Tur
was
it
it
was against
against
the
Kansas City?
Royals on a Friday night.
Yeah, it was the first game of that Kansas City series because they came
Was.
back from Miami. That's right. So here's his numbers. This is strictly the 48 games from when he got the ovation to the end of the season. 337 batting average, 389 on base, 668 slugging percentage, 16 home runs. Sounds pretty good to me.
I will take that all day, every day. That's the
That's
guy we paid for,
that's a
and
1057 OPS.
that's that's MVP caliber. Although
He,
with the numbers Acuna put up this year, uh, might not be, but uh,
it would have. That's a quarter of the season, and that many home runs over the quarter of a season times four, you're looking at. Well, he's not hitting 64 home runs,
well, you never
but
know.
hey, listen, he could be a 40-40 guy too if he wanted to be. If
Yeah,
if he,
I will say he should have stole more bases.
I did think that too, and that's why I think like the 30 for 30 goes a lot unnoticed because we were pegging this guy to lead the league in steals this year.
Hmm.
Instead, very respectable, very much a plus on the base paths, but just wasn't what we expected for someone who is one of the fastest players in all of baseball.
Yeah, well, especially when like Acuna's got 70, Bobby Witt. I don't know if he got his 50th, but he was
Corbin
teetering
Carroll
on
got 50,
49.
I think.
Corbin Carroll, I think, had 50. So like, and those, I mean, those guys are a little younger than Trey at this point, but still, he has that speed to where 40 would have been, reasonable for him, especially because he wasn't swiping a lot of bags early. It wasn't until he got his mojo. That's when I feel like he started to steal more bags. So
Yeah,
had
it
he
almost
been
felt like
swiping
a
them earlier,
confidence kind of thing
I
that
agree.
really
Yeah.
started to, you know, that he got in the groove of things, that he could focus on that part of his game. Was again, defense was it was ugly. It was bad. I yelled at someone on like Twitter for saying it was the worst Phillies shortstop they've ever seen, and I brought up Gene Segura, and they're like, not even close. And I was like, all right, let me dig into these stats because I want to be right about this. And then I looked, and it's bad. It's worse than I thought. I thought Gene Segura was so much worse as a shortstop. But yeah, Trey Turner,
Mhm.
-9 defensive runs saved, 23 errors. Just not a good year. Um, Hopefully next year turns around a little bit. That, or you know what? Maybe you need to flip Stott and Turner. Stott played a pretty good shortstop last year,
I actually wrote
and
about that earlier in the year. Um, Eric did point out that the ovation was August 4th. So it was after August 4th that he put up those numbers
yep,
that you were talking about.
yep, that's the date that I had. That's the range that I had there again. 337 batting average and 16 bombs. The 16 bombs came out of nowhere. It was crazy. The first night, I think he had like one hit, and then it was like a string of 2 weeks where he was just hitting everything hard.
It was
It
like the
was
World Baseball
crazy.
Classic where he
It
was
really
just going
was.
deep at like every other at bat, and I was like, oh my god. Which,
We need to
if
talk to
you're
some Dodgers fans and be like, "Hey, is this what
yeah,
he was like?" Or like some Nats fans. Just figure it out. Be like, "Is this what Trey Turner is? He just periods of
it's kind of like a Reese
insanity?"
Hoskins moment where you go off for 2 weeks
Yeah.
and hit absolute taters, but
Hey man, I mentioned something about him being an MVP in like May of 20, I think it was 18. It was after a St. Louis Cardinals series, and he was hitting like 300 with like 10 bombs already, maybe like 15 bombs. I was like, I'm about to say this. But, it again, it was a weird season for the Phillies. Of course, the first 2 months the first month especially was rough.
very rough.
April was I know from my experience, I was at a Phillies sponsored watch party on opening day, outside. I was in my little Phillies chair with a blanket on because it was like 50 degrees, drinking a few brews, and I'm watching. I'm like, Alec Boehm, he's having this great day. They're up like 5 runs on Jacob DeGrom. This is great. Nola's rolling, and it just disappeared, and it was bad. Eh,
They started 1-5?
I think it was 1-5. They got
Yeah.
swept by the Rangers and lost 2 of 3 to the Yankees in New York. Um, yeah, it was just an ugly start. And then there were a couple injuries too. We all thought Derek Hall was going to be a major contributor to this team. And of course, he hurt his finger. I think it was sliding into second
Hmm.
on a play. And that was a week into the season, like April 9th.
Yeah.
So
And then we got the
he,
legend of Cody Clemens.
Cody Clemens, I'll say this, he was an excellent first baseman, like really great defensively. Also, he and his dad are the have the major league record for most strikeouts between a father and son duo. So
That is true. Well, I thought they might call him up this weekend as the extra player.
yeah,
And I thought he might get a chance to pitch given any like depending on what the game was like because it didn't matter. So I
no,
was like I was kind of hoping for a Cody Clemens.
got to add to that record.
I know, or either that or Michael Lorenzen playing like center field again. I thought that might
I
have a
wanted him to
possibility.
DH in the Hangover game so badly. I was like, come on, chaos, let it rain. Like everybody would have watched that game just to see Michael Lorenzen hit, which is a wild sentence, especially if you're tuning in from April of 2023.
Yeah, seriously. Cody Clemens had 18 home runs in the minors, 9 in the bigs, so 27 home runs
Yeah,
on the year for him.
he was acceptable. And he actually had like a time frame where he was a really good hitter. It was like the first week or two he was called up, he was very bad. And then like the next 2 or 3 weeks, he was a great hitter. Like he was really doing well. Uh I have the walk-off picture with him getting splashed as my screensaver on my phone, my lock screen.
It was a great moment against his former club too,
Was
which
that the night that his dad was in attendance too,
his
or
dad. I think his dad was in attendance. Yeah,
yeah, which is wild. It's wild to think that Roger Clemens is now associated with the Phillies.
so crazy. S-
But no, there's so many wild things that happened this year. Aaron Nola's still being a roller coaster, and I'm just hoping that playoffs flips the switch for him. Because what else are we gonna say?
it's kind of like do or die time for Aaron Nola. Had really nice 2 last starts to finish off his season, but man, like in a contract year, if you had told me that on opening, if you had told me 20 minutes before opening day the numbers he was going to have, I would not have believed it simply because I just thought, like, you always hear about contract year and how a player will more times than not go above and beyond their talent level because they know they're playing for that contract. And Nola just did the opposite. He kind of just cost himself money, if we're being honest. I
Oh,
mean, he had a
absolutely.
respectable year, but not the kind of year that you were expecting for a guy coming off 2022, where he was probably a top 10 pitcher in all of baseball.
He was
And
fourth in Cy Young voting.
yeah, like so for Nola, I mean, honestly, the whole pitching staff, I was somewhat disappointed with their performance this year.
But I
Uh,
think that overall in baseball, that was a narrative. Was that I think
yeah,
pitchers got the short end of the stick with the rule changes.
they did.
It made a lot of things harder for them. Of course, less pickoff attempts, the bigger bases, so you're going to have more extra base hits, more steals. Uh, of course, the ending of the shift, so no more over shifts to really counteract some pull heavy guys or guys with very obvious tendencies. So it no one was there was no favors done to pitching, and I think it's been the past few years in which Major League Baseball has been emphasizing hitting over pitching, trying to get people to watch the game more. And so there's a lot of factors that into it. It's disappointing for sure.
Hmm.
Like, and if he didn't get run support this year, it would have been ugly. I mean, he had 12 wins this year, which is somehow his second most as a Philly. Uh, but I want to say this: 2021, he had a higher ERA. He was actively worse in 2021, and he rebounded from that year to have his 2022, where he had a 3.25 ERA and a historically low walk rate. So it's so odd.
Odd's a
It,
good word for it. Yeah.
he's a good pitcher and has good stuff, but sometimes I just don't know what's going on between the gears turning in his head.
I'm
It,
telling you, bro, it's the home runs. If he just limited the home
oh,
runs,
he
his
gave
numbers
up
would be
32 home runs
insane.
this year. 32. He a 1.5 home runs per 9, by and far the most of his career.
Yeah, just overall, like Zach Wheeler had it's still a good season, but like I feel like a step down from last year, even though he stayed healthy, in this year versus what he kind of dealt with last year. And then like Ranger Suarez, I felt like should have been better this year. He kind of took a step back, and I know he dealt with the late start to his spring, and then he was banged up a little bit. So like I know he didn't really have a chance to get in a groove, right, like a great groove. But there was like I want to say like the month of June, Ranger was filthy. Like he had just come back, he was finally like his full pitch allotment, and he was filthy. And then that was kind of it for him. Like I feel like that kind of brings down his overall numbers. and I feel like that month more of an outlier than what he actually was this season because he just wasn't the Ranger. Like here's the thing with Ranger, right? He always goes on like he always has this like stretch where you're like, wow, this guy's actually filthy, and he could be like a number two for our rotation. But then he'll have other times where he's just like, oh gosh, like he's like a four, like a maybe like a low or like a low end four, high end five. Sometimes the way he pitches, and it really is command based because he doesn't have blow you away stuff. It's mostly just location
He's got
and pitch
decent
mix.
stuff at least. He's like 93, 94.
Yeah, but nothing like that.
Oh,
You're
no,
not,
nothing special.
nothing
Yeah.
special. And it's just like for Ranger, I feel I don't know, like last year his performance in the playoffs, right? He was starting, he was closing games, like he was just like he was ridiculous. And heading into the season, I'm like, wow, we have a great one-two punch with Wheeler, Nolan, Suarez, and I just feel like we didn't really get that out of Ranger this year. He could turn that around, like I said, with the postseason, like he could change that narrative real quick if he comes out of like if Ranger comes in relief in game two and closes the game and sends us to the division series, which I doubt would happen. It would really depend on how the game's going, because I feel like he is the third starter in the playoff rotation.
Yeah, you would have to use him for game one of the next series,
You would
wouldn't you?
think, you would think.
Now the guy I want to bring up, but I want to address this a whole separate thing because I have one more fascinating stat about Aaron Nola.
Okay,
So we talked about this our last podcast, but I picked a stat that I was like, no one's really talked about it, and it's weird. Aaron Nola hit one batter this entire season. One. Only one batter. The last time a pitcher threw as many innings as Nola and hit one or less batters in a season was 2017. Would you like to take a guess of the pitcher that did that?
was it Aaron Nola?
No, 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 no.
Oh, um, 2017,
Yeah,
Dallas Keuchel. I'm
no.
just thinking of
Good
random names.
guess. That's a good guess. Aaron Nola actually hit only two batters that year, though. But
Okay, who you got?
um, Zach Greinke.
Oh, okay,
Zach Greinke threw over 200 innings and hit nobody.
huh,
Yeah,
interesting.
it's just
That's
one of
a
those weird
yeah,
things.
it's a interesting comp for sure. Eric said Ariad.
I'll take a look to see how many Arrieta hit through his career. I'm sure he hit a ton early on as a Oriole because oh man, he was bad.
Jake Arrieta. I wonder who he's rooting for in the playoffs. You think he's rooting for Baltimore?
He would have been rooting for the Cubs.
Would have been rooting for the Cubs. Which I want to say, we talked about the Cubs before the year began, and you were high on them, and I was not, and I feel validated by the fact they did not get in.
Listen, they screwed themselves. I think I was justified in what I went with, but his best season with for not hitting guys would have been 2014, where he hit three batters in 156 and two thirds. Thanks for playing, Eric. But no, I want to talk about Chris Sanchez
Okay.
because I think Chris Sanchez has a chance to be what Ranger Suarez was last year for in the postseason. Because I think Rangers gonna get the shot at being the number 3 starter, no questions asked. Taijuan Walker was an absolute mess in the first inning of games, and do we really want to see that again in the playoffs? I don't. I don't even want to see him in a 7-game series. I'd rather see Chris Sanchez
I agree.
appear as a starter. Yeah, the only time I'd want to see Walker is if we're getting blown out and it's just like, all right, save the bullpen, get Walker warm. It, that's it. And don't even get me started on Lorenzen. He was a mess, but he's looked better out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
Much better.
I think he's more comfortable there, and I think his innings being
Oh
more than
yeah.
he's ever thrown has a factor. Um, Eric says Sanchez is consistent enough to budge into the postseason. Would love to see it. Yeah, I agree. I think that
Yeah.
I wrote about what their rotation should look like the other day for Philly Sports Network, and I said it should be Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Sanchez. It should be your 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I put. But what I think is going to happen is it's going to be Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Walker. I think that
Mm,
Thompson is going to go to Walker, and I think that's a mistake.
no, I don't think so. He went to Bailey Falter last year.
Yeah,
He
and
he was riding a hot hand, but you know what? Falter hadn't pitched at all, and there's been talk about if he needs someone in the late innings or just needs a lefty out of the pen, he could go to Sanchez. And if that's the point, why not? He'll stay warm and have bullpen sessions, but if he can get some in-game work too, I think that makes a world of difference. And his changeup's the real deal.
agreed.
Like we saw him tear up the Mets back on the 24th. 10 strikeouts in 7 innings from him. Wonderful
I
stuff.
would love this. Like I would. Everything says that Sanchez should pitch. The only thing that is against him is how much they're paying him, because you're paying Taijuan Walker $18 million a season to be your third, fourth starter in the playoffs. They brought him in to replace Zach Eflin in that role.
And guess
Um,
what? Zach Eflin did not start in playoffs.
no, but that's a little different of a circumstance. But Eflin's could be starting for the Rays. I'll tell you that. He's probably going to get the ball game one if I had to
Oh,
assume.
he was so good this year.
He was great, and he stayed pretty healthy, which I was very happy for. Actually, Tyler Glass now is going to get the start for the Rays. It looks like, but regardless, Walker should play the Kyle Gibson role where he pitches and mop up. He should not come in a meaningful game. The dude had a 7 ERA in the first inning.
Oh yeah, no, he's been god awful.
It's just, but I feel as though they're going to give Walker a start in the Brave series, and I don't want to get
No,
ahead of
why would it be in
ourselves.
the Brave series?
Well, the way I'm thinking is I don't want to spoil it,
How
but
many how many days are there gapped between the wild card series and the NLDS?
so Saturday's the first game of
Uh
the
huh.
NLDS. So you have Tuesday, Wednesday, assuming you don't play a game 3, which is Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday is the first game. They're off Sunday. They play Monday, so you can go to Wheeler on Monday for game 2. Nola
Okay,
for game 3, back in Philly. So,
so why not Ranger for game one?
well, it depends. Or do they? I personally, I think the Marlins series goes 3 games.
Do you think so?
I think the Marlins series is going to go 3 games. I do. Yeah.
See. I'm the opposite, and it might be early to hop into this conversation, but why why are we psyching ourselves out against the Marlins that struggled to even get in this position, who have a decimated starting rotation? There's no Yuri Perez. There's no Sandy Alcantara. Eh, Is Soler even back from the IL?
I would have to check on that, but it's not even. It's not that I'm psyching myself out that I'm scared of the Marlins. I think the Marlins are genuinely a good team.
They're
I like Skip
good.
Schumacher as a manager. I think he's a great leader.
I
The way
love
he
their
was
GM, Kim Ning. She's done a
fantastic.
great
The what
job.
they did at the deadline, adding Jake Berger and Josh Bell, was perfect for them,
I
and it
forgot about
paid
Jake Berger.
dividends. The thing with the Marlins is they are kind of like last year's Phillies, where they are home run or bust. If they're not hitting tanks, other than Arias, who only hit singles, if they're not blasting the ball out of
All
the
right,
park, they're not going to score.
I've got
Um,
good news and bad news.
okay,
The bad news is Jorge Soler is back.
okay.
The good news is he hasn't homered since September 17th, which he is a very streaky home run hitter. His
It just
home
means
runs
he's due.
come up in bunch. I- Listen, it's tough to get going when you're cold like that. Maybe he is due. Maybe he's the undoing of the Phillies in the playoffs. But let's not call him Hideki Matsui yet, all right?
I mean, look, I'm not psyching myself out. Like people on Twitter are freaking out. Oh my God, the Marlins. I think the Marlins are generally a good squad. The Phillies are better. Phillies are abundantly better. But I think that the Marlins could win a game in this series. I don't think it's like
Oh yeah, it's possible.
compare this to like the Phillies Cardinals last year, where the Cardinals were the better team, and the Phillies came in and just they were hot and they struck at the right time. Right, the Cardinals were winning what 1-0 heading into the ninth inning in game 1. before the Phillies exploded for 6.
I
Like
think it was 2-1.
2 to
Was it
1.
2-1?
I knew it was a one-run
Or was it
game at the
2
very
or was it
least.
2-0?
I
Was
thought
it
it was a one-run game.
2-0? It was either 2-1 or 2-0 because I think the Cardinals had 2 runs. I'm
Okay.
90% sure on that.
Well, in that case, 2-1. Regardless,
Yeah.
it was a one-run game, and the Phillies exploded. And Ryan Helsley last year, a fantastic closer who kind of blew up. I, I could see that kind of story happening again. The Phillies bullpen has been really cold the last couple of weeks. Like Craig Kimbrell might have been overused in the beginning of the season. Jose Alvarado's been good, but Jose does have that little wildness to him that still scares
He's
me a
been
little bit.
better. He's
He has
looked
been better,
like
but he's
his
capable of doing it.
April self. Recently, he has.
I agree, but I don't know. Jose still scares me a little bit. He
Oh
can
yeah,
get a
the
little
walks
wild.
scare me. They do.
Soto is wild, and I like him overall. I thought he had a good year. Still concerns me a little
Soto
bit.
scares me more than anyone. Like he's how many lefties do we have in the bullpen? We have Alvarado, Strom. Is there anybody else?
So Sanchez,
Eh.
and then
Would you put Sanchez above Soto in the bullpen pecking order for the playoffs?
depends on the situation.
Mm.
If it's a clean
Is
inning, I might go Sanchez. If a lefty's coming up with an out or 2 outs, I would go to
ooh,
Soto with the overpowering stuff.
you what about okay, bases loaded, who are you picking?
Bases loaded, I'm picking Sanchez because I know he won't throw a
Okay.
wild pitch.
Yeah, and not walk the guy.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ball will be put in play before anything happens. So
And that could be a grand slam, but there's also the equal chance that he probably gets them swinging over a changeup.
yeah,
Yeah.
Eric, I do think Lorenzen uh is stashed in the pen, and like the way I see it, it will be that Lorenzen could get a 6th or a 7th inning depending on how many guys have been used prior. Versus Walker, I don't think will pitch unless like they're being blown out or blowing out another team.
Yeah.
Like Lorenzen has bullpen qualities to him, where Walker is just he's more of an innings eater type, and I just don't see. I don't see a role for him. I really don't see a role for him. There's a chance. Well, no, there's not a chance. I was gonna say maybe Walker's left off the roster, but I doubt that. I feel like he'll be on the roster.
No, yeah, I think you keep him just in case you're really starting to get blown out and there's still a couple innings left, but you want to stay competitive. Why not warm up and throw him for 3 innings? Why not?
Orion Kirkring is he in your playoff pen?
I think so. And I think he's above the pecking order with Sir Anthony.
I
I
agree. I would
it,
leave Sir Anthony completely off.
I wouldn't leave him completely off.
I would leave Sir Anthony completely off.
Yeah, if we're up by a few runs, I'm fine bringing him in the middle innings, but I'm not using him high leverage. But uh I have Kimbrel above him. I have Hoffman above him. I have Kirkering above him at righties, just righties. I'd have Alvarado above him. I'd have, uh, oddly enough, I would have Matt Strom above him too.
Hmm.
Matt Strom has an excellent K per nine this year. Like
He's been good.
he's of guys with at least 80 innings pitched. I think he's like top 10 in strikeout rate, which is
But all of
absolutely
the guys you
wild.
just listed, right? Like now you're talking about the last spot or two in the bullpen, and you got to think because the
Mm,
starters are being pushed in, that a couple of guys are going to lose their spot out of the pen. Covey's out, right? So like that's not like
yeah.
his spot's
I will
gone.
say
But
Covey really did carve a little niche for himself at the end of the year. Like I know he
he
wasn't
he
great.
was better. He was better than what people give him credit for. I agree.
I think so too. There was a time where I wanted him to fire him to the moon and never see him again.
Hmm.
That was probably around the trade deadline when they acquired um the Renson. But no, he was good. But Strom had 11 K per nine in 86.2 innings pitched this season.
I don't know. I think Dominguez could be a guy that gets bumped because of the guys being pushed into the pen. You're shortening the rotation, and the guys that are in the back end of the bullpen that are guarantees have just been more consistent. And like I know
Hmm.
without Dominguez, we don't go to the World Series last year, but that's
It's
last year,
true.
man.
It
Like
is last year as well.
you
You're right.
gotta play it by what you've seen this year, Thompson clearly lost trust in him because he stopped putting him in any high leverage situation. He was
He
only putting
tried
him in
to.
cleanup stuff.
He tried.
He did. The game against the Mets at home a couple weeks ago on Apple TV, it was a Friday night. Dominguez came in the 10th, and things got really dicey, but he did get out of it. I just can't see him in that situation, and I think that like I don't know, like at least with Kirkering, there's
The
no
stuff
like
is real with
the stuff
Kirkering.
is legit, and there's
Like
nothing to like be like, oh, I'm worried about this with him, right? Like
so here's the
he's
information
raw.
on Kirkering right now. If you want a guy out of the bullpen, his fastball is sitting at 97.8 miles an hour averaging. He's only thrown 9 so far because he's thrown 51 sliders. And now Statcast qualifies it as a sweeper, but I've heard everyone else reference it as a slider, so that's what I'm going with. But he's allowed just 2 singles, and on those 51 sliders, he's averaging 2,959 RPMs. Like, that is a sharp spin on that.
Hmm.
That is more than your average curveball. Like, this thing is moving. And listen, games he's coming, he's been striking out basically 2 per game. There was a great comp that I heard from Matt Gelb of someone who made their season debut for their team very late as a rookie and just came in, dominated, and helped their team go to a World Series. And that's a little guy named Francisco Rodriguez.
I thought you were gonna go with Marty Bystrom with the comp there.
No. Marty Bystrom was a starter when I think. Yeah, he came in as a starter, but was a rookie. Um, but Francisco Rodriguez allowed a total of 4 earned runs in the 2002 playoffs.
Wow.
In he was used in multiple innings, but he wasn't used in like the ninth inning at all. Like he was like 7, 8th inning, sometimes the 6th inning. Um, he was just used all around, but he was that guy to come in because he was striking out 3 guys in an inning, 2 guys in an inning. You know, being that he walked only 5 guys. And again, I don't have the specific innings total in front of me, but it's 2 innings, 2 innings, 1.2, 1.2, 1, 1, 2/3, 3 innings, 2 innings, 2.21.
Damn.
Like he pitched 3 innings in game 2 of the World Series.
And that was the year the Angels. Yeah, the Angels won that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat the Giants. The
That Barry
Barry
Bonds.
Bonds
Yeah.
Giants. Yeah, he had a 1.93 ERA that postseason.
That's
So I
awesome.
wouldn't be surprised if Topper is excited from what he's seen in the few games that Kirkering's been able to come in and show his stuff. If Dombrowski is also believing in him, and I'm assuming Dombrowski is why he got the call because he saw this and it was like,
I agree.
we
I think
can't leave a
Dombrowski
guy
has it.
that's almost throwing 100 for strikes with a slider that's moving out of this world and just leave him off the post. I wouldn't be surprised. This is a big claim.
Okay.
If Orion Kirkering is Jose Alvarado from 2022, you're fireman.
You just bring
I
him in
know.
the shove heat.
Just throw him in the fire. Now, who knows what happens? It could completely backfire, but the stuff is real. This is someone that jumped from A ball to the majors in 1 year. That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
That's He was drafted last year.
The best part about
The
Kirkering.
Phillies don't do this either.
No, they don't. That's the best part. The best part about Kirkering is that he's like one of ours. It wasn't like Jeff Hoffman's been great, right? But he was something that we plucked from somebody else. It was somebody like, I mean, great job by our scouting department to find Jeff Hoffman, right? But Ryan Kirking was somebody we're like, we're gonna make this pick. We'll see how it turns out. And he just continued to impress. And like you said, he started in A-ball. He started in Clearwater, was not invited to Major League Camp, and it has a chance to be on the Phillies postseason roster. Like that is insanity. Um, I don't know. There's no book on Orion Kirkering. Like, there's not a lot of data for guys to study against him and be like, oh, well, this does well and stuff like that. Versus Dominguez, to where you have stuff on him. I don't know, man. I'm going Kirkering like over Dominguez, and I'm not feeling bad about it.
Yes. But what I want to say is, think about this: your first two matchups, potentially two matchups. Again, I'm not overlooking anybody. I'm not overlooking the fish. Not doing it. I'm just not panicking. But first two playoff series would be against the Marlins and the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
Two teams that see your roster plenty of times throughout the season. You know what? One player neither of those teams have seen?
Orion Kirkering.
Orion Kirkering. You're going out there throwing 100 for strikes, but majority just throwing nasty slider after nasty slider. I think that's a weapon, especially for guys against in Atlanta have just been hammering home runs against the Phillies. It's worth a shot. I
It's worth a
really
shot.
do think
I
it
agree.
is. But this bullpen is going to be. I think it's very much an improved bullpen from last year. I think we got lucky with some of the guys. There's no Bellotti this year. He was bad. Brogdon was bad. He was in the minors. He's not on this roster. And they pitched meaningful games last year.
Yeah.
So you're without those guys, but you've subbed in basically Craig Kimbrell for Robinson. You're subbing in, who else was there? Matt
Eflin.
Strom for Brad Hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Hoffman for Eflin. I'm trying to think who else would be
Yeah. So you have
viable to this
Bellotti.
analogy. Kirkering is your Bellotti, but that's
Much,
infinitely better than
much
Bellotti.
better. Well, we had Noah Syndergaard coming out of the pen.
Right, I forgot
Um,
about that, John.
yeah, so there's that. But uh, I will say this: on paper, team's far better than it was last year, and that was a roster that went to the World Series. But the Braves are a better team on paper than they were last year, and I think the Dodgers are actually worse than they were last season.
Yeah, absolutely, they're worse. The Dodgers are barely standing on starting pitching right now. Julio Urias completely left them high and dry.
Mm-hmm.
An absolutely embarrassment to that franchise, and he's never going to play Major League Baseball again.
Correct.
I completely believe. Um, so yeah, the Dodgers don't scare me. The only thing
No,
that scares me about the Dodgers are Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. They're
that's it. Yeah.
so top heavy. Like they had a good rookie in like James Outman. I don't want to discount his contributions, but I really couldn't tell you too much else about that team.
Yeah, it is Mookie, it is Freddie, and well, Clayton Kershaw doesn't do anything in the playoffs. I'm not
No,
worried about that. But
yeah,
yeah,
Kershaw's Kershaw.
I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but
Oh yeah,
he's
he's the
just
best
not a
pitcher of the
playoff pitcher.
2010s.
Yeah, he just does not prove it in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Honestly, whoever wins the Phillies Braves series will go to the National League representing the National League, or they'll go to the World Series representing the National League. That I know for a fact.
I I'm gonna oppose that
Okay,
because I think of any team in the playoffs right now, Milwaukee has the best pitching staff.
that they do, but they can't hit.
I know, but think about it. You just get lucky with a few hits and your staff's dominating. Because what? They have Woodruff, they have
Burns
Peralta, and Burns.
with Devin
Three.
Williams out of the pen. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they're filthy, but like I said, they've always been filthy come playoff. Like whenever the Brewers make it, they have
Yeah.
good pitching. They just can never hit, and that's the reason why I couldn't tell you the last time they were in a championship series, let alone a World
Were
Series.
they in 2017, was it? When like Eric Kratz was on the team? Did they make it to the NLCS?
I'm trying to think.
I think they did. They won the wild card game. I think they won a series. So, and then I think they lost to
In 2018 they lost the NLCS
Oh, it was 2018.
in
Okay.
7 games to the Dodgers.
Yeah, it was to the Dodgers. I was cheering on the Brewers.
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
cheering on
I do
Eric
recall
Kratz.
that. Yeah, they won
Love
96
me,
games that
love
year.
me some Eric Kratz. It's the reason why I have seen turkey bacon.
I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't fear the Brewers. I really don't. Like.
It was Eric Kratz in the hot Godshall's turkey bacon commercial, right?
I think it
Not
was Eric
not
Kratz.
Rupp.
I thought it was Kratz, not
I
Rupp.
think it's Kratz. Yeah, I'm I'm hoping. I'm sure.
Darker
I'm
times
hoping.
in Philly, sister.
It was. It was 2013. One of our top starting pitchers was AJ Burnett, and he had the worst year I think anybody's ever had, and he was getting paid $17 million.
Jerome Williams followed me on Instagram, former Philly legend.
Jerome Williams was the nicest guy. I went to the last game of the season in 2014, I think it was, and he took pictures and like he took my phone and like he signed everything too. Like he was just a super nice dude. Super nice. Like Jerome Williams has a place in my heart, which I don't think anybody has ever said.
No, that you heard it here first,
Outside
my
of
friend.
family and friends. Not saying that he doesn't have loved ones. That would be cruel.
Be funny. But I don't know. I feel like we're at that point. We're talking about the Marlins. We're talking about this matchup. I went ahead and said it. I mean, I think the Phillies will win the series in 3 games. I think Wheeler shoves in game 1. They win. I think Nola does well in game 2, but the Marlins come back late and win. And then game 3, Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez will get the start, and Rob Thompson will throw the kitchen sink and use everybody and anybody. I feel like the Phillies win this in 3. I don't think it'll be comfortable. I think we're gonna have to sweat this one out. We're at that point now where we're not the lovable underdogs anymore, where there's no pressure and whatever
Against the
happens
Braves, we
happens.
are.
Against the Braves, we are, but in this series, we are the favorites, and as
Yeah.
we should. But I am gonna go with the Phillies in 3. What do you think?
So I'm saying this, and I have a reason behind this. Phillies in two. Phillies in two. I think if they lose a game to the Marlins, especially if it's game 2, I think there's a chance that they panic in game 3 or that it's really close, but I think you're burning a little bit more that you need for the Brave series. I think the offense is going to really shine against a depleted Marlins staff. I don't believe they have Tanner Scott. That is it. That is the only pitcher I fear on that entire staff is Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott has been a revelation for them this year. Just absolutely dominant to the nth degree. Just wildly good. But yeah, again, so here's their starters and how they've done against the Phillies this year. I feel like this is a good time to bring this up. So Jesus Luzardo is confirmed to be the game 1 starter.
Hmm.
2 starts this year, 12 and a third innings against the Phillies. So he's averaging a little over 6 innings pitched, 5 earned runs. So not lights out, but he has struck out 14 Phillies in those 2 starts. So he is going to be a tough nut to crack.
Hmm.
But I think with the pairing against Wheeler, I don't see Wheeler giving up more than two runs over at least 6 innings. And again, I don't think the Marlins bullpen is anything special. And I think if it's tied or close, I think the advantage is clearly on the Phillies side
I
of
agree.
things. Um, Game 2 is confirmed to be Braxton Garrett. A little bit better by the Phillies in this. He's 2 starts, 10 innings pitched, so about 5 innings each way.
Okay.
6 earned runs, so like a 5.4 ERA, 8 strikeouts. So there's nothing to fear there.
Mm,
He had some good moments. I think last year, I think he had a really good game against the Phillies, if I remember. Or maybe it was really early in this season he did. And the second game, we just destroyed him. Can't remember specifically, but I'm not afraid of Braxton Garrett either. 3.6. Luzardo's a 3.63 ERA this year. Braxton Garrett's 3.66. And then game 3 is most likely going to be Edward Cabrera. In 2 games, he's faced the Phillies 8 innings pitched, so not getting length, 4 earned runs. The big thing, though, 7 strikeouts to 7 walks.
Mm.
This guy walks everyone. So there's nothing there.
Gotta
But
make him pay.
just to go back to Tanner Scott here. Scott had a 2.31 ERA this year for the Marlins.
Hmm.
Yeah, he became their closer down the stretch, and he was really good. Um, I guess Andrew Nardi was also really good this year, which I did not know. Whatever. Again, we have a lot of weapons. They have AJ Puck, who was owned by Pache in the
That's
ninth
true.
inning
Yeah, Puck
in
fell off hard.
June, and Stephen Okert trying to be Cardi B out here being Okert. Anyway, that's my worst joke for the night. But
We're a
again,
podcast full of
they don't
dad
scare
jokes.
me. I don't think you're getting more than 6 innings out of any of these guys, and I don't see more than 2 relievers that I would be confident in putting in a playoff game. So,
One final thing I'll say about the Marlins: a lot of inexperience in the postseason for these guys. So that does favor the Phillies, who got their experience last year. They got a taste of it. Um, Jorge Soler has done it on the biggest stage of them all. I think Arias might have made the postseason with the Twins.
yeah, he definitely would
Um,
have.
I'm just trying to think of
But the
anybody else on the
Twins also
roster.
were always bad. They're always bad in the playoffs.
Yeah, they don't actually perform in the playoffs. They just show up.
They just get beat by the Yankees.
Although, yeah, they
They don't
aren't.
have to deal with the
They don't
Yankees
have to
this
deal with the
year.
Yankees this year, so maybe they'll win a playoff series
Yeah,
or a playoff game at the very least.
at the
Uh,
least.
at the very least. But yeah, man. I don't. I think well, at the very least, we both agree the Phillies will advance to take on the Atlanta Braves in a rematch of last year's NLDS. Um, the Braves are going to come swinging. I mean,
They were
they
one home run shy, I believe, of tying the major league record.
they are going. They are going to be tough, man. Like the Braves are just so damn good,
They're
and
stacked offensively.
their pitching is banged up. Charlie Morton and Max Fried are banged up.
Max
And
Fried will pitch. Charlie Morton won't, though.
that yeah. So we'll see how that affects them. Spencer Strider does not scare me. He can strike
Really?
out. He strikes out a lot of guys, but he also lets up a lot of runs.
Yes, but not to teams called the Phillies.
Well, that means he's due. Law of
It
averages.
does,
It
but
means he's due.
mm,
When's the last time the Phillies scored? This is sarcastic, but when's the last time the Phillies scored against Spencer Strider? The
there
NLDS
was a home
last
run.
year.
No, it had a home run last game. But he had dominated
Yeah,
through I think 5 innings, and then the 6th inning, somebody hit like a 2-run shot off him, but the Braves were already leading like 4-0 or 5-0,
but what I'm saying
something
is,
like that.
in the biggest moment against us, he shriveled up. Reese Hoskins
It was a
took him deep.
94-mile-an-hour fastball though from Spencer Strider.
Well, maybe he'll throw another 94-mile-an-hour
Ugh,
fastball.
that's wishful thinking.
It's wishful thinking, but I don't. I'm just not
I
scared.
don't. It's not that I'm afraid that the Phillies can't win one of 2 Spencer Strider starts, because I think one of them they'll have somebody starting opposed that will actually stifle the Braves, because I do think the Phillies can do it. I do, but they're gonna have to score 5 runs at least. At least.
At least, yeah. No, it's gonna be the offense is going to be. It's just who could slug harder, the Phillies, the Braves.
Listen, it was that 4-game series that it's embedded in my mind now. It's Citizens Bank Park, where the Phillies could have won 2 of 3 easily, but instead they lost 3 of 4 um, in 2 extra innings. I just remembered. I just remembered, Matt.
There's no ghost runner.
There's no Ghost Runner.
There's no ghost runner.
There's no Ghost Runner. Uh, oh, that was the boost of serotonin I needed to confidently say the Phillies are getting to the World Series.
I'm not going that far yet, but
I
I think
said it. I
they'll
can't
get
take it back.
they'll get through to the Braves. I'll take it from there.
Who are the options on the other side? Be either Dodgers, Brewers, or
Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks.
It'll be the Dodgers.
You think?
It'll be the Dodgers.
Hmm. I think they're gonna find a way to cobble a pitching staff together, but it's gonna be so unconventional. It's gonna be like 4 innings, 3 innings, 2 innings. Like you're gonna have maybe Bobby Miller go 6 innings because Kershaw's not going deep anymore, and they've made
Mm.
sure of that. Um, Lance Lynn was one of the worst starting pitchers this year, so that's not an issue.
That's what I'm saying, bro. If the Phillies can get past the Braves, it's right there. Plus, if they get past the Braves, I don't think the Dodgers would fare well here, honestly. They haven't historically. They always seem to crumble against the Phillies in the
Would
postseason.
love to see that again.
Would love to
Would
see that. Could
love it.
Jonathan Broxton come out of retirement for
Oh
one more
no, it's gonna
series?
be who's the guy that throws like 98 miles an hour?
Broussard
Uh,
Gratterall?
yeah, Gratterall. Yeah. Uh, I think he's the guy. I think he's the Jonathan Broxton if that were to be the situation.
We
Galling
shall
that.
see. Well, hey,
Calling that.
you put it out there,
But
so
I did. There's a few other things I do want to mention here. Uh, there's been interesting development with Weston Wilson. He could be the game one left fielder
I
against
actually
Jesus
think he
Luzardo.
will be. I think it's official that he's going to be the left. The
The
team
only other
hasn't
person it
announced
could
it,
be
but
Pache, but Pache
it's
has
not
not
going to be
been
Pache.
great recently.
And I think that's going to mean that uh, Rojas is starting in center and Marsh is coming off the bench in game one.
Yeah, no, that would
So,
sound right. You have to put Rojas at center. He's so good defensively.
mhm,
Like he is, yeah, he's that good
he's
defensively
that
in
good.
center field that it even outweighs what he does offensively because that's up the middle. Like how many fly balls up the middle, line drives up the middle is he going to be able to cut off? Is he going to make great plays on, take a great route, the speed cutting down anything? I'm
Hmm.
very confident to see him out there. But Weston Wilson, so he's only played in 8 games as a Philly. He's hit 313 with 1,000 OPS though, and 3 stolen bases. In AAA, against left-handed pitching, he hit 325 with a
Okay.
416 on base percentage and a 609 slug. He also went 30-30 at AAA. 31 homers, 32 stolen bases. This is a guy that you could even put on the bench as a pinch runner. Like, I mean, you're also going to have Pache on the bench that you can use as a pinch runner. The Phillies
Well,
have some good weapons.
I think it's between Weston Wilson and Pache for the playoff spot.
Do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they would carry because you have Marsh Rojas that you're already rotating. So you're not gonna have three
Yeah, you
outfielders.
want to carry Marsh. Yeah, you would carry Marsh over
Plus,
Pache.
Weston Wilson can play the infield, which gives him the
Yeah,
advantage over Pache.
flexibility there. He could play
So
third base.
I don't think Pache is making the postseason roster. I think it'll be Wilson.
Jamie had a nice little season for the Phillies.
He did better than what I expected, but you'll have Weston Wilson on the
We'll always
bench.
have Miami.
We'll always have Miami. Rojas slash Marsh, depending lefty righty.
Of course,
Um,
Stubbs.
Stubbs, and then Sosa. Sosa's the last guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No Castro.
no Castro.
Yeah, nobody wants that on their team. Um, yeah. No, I like the way the team is looking. I really do. Um, if we're wrapping up the season and talking about everything that went on, I think we need to talk about Schwarber's wild ride of a season. He hit
Schwarber had a hell of a year,
197,
man.
but he had 47 home runs and 104 RBI. I'm pretty sure that is the lowest batting average for anyone that's homered 40 times or had 100 RBI. Both of them. Like he had an 817 OPS. Like a 344 on base percentage. He got on base 34% of the time. That's 2% more than Trey Turner got on base this year.
Which I mean, the benchmark is a little skewed. But
Yeah.
I mean, he is a true three outcomes batter. He either goes
Yeah.
deep, he walks, or he strikes out.
It was
Um,
3 walks from tying um what's Nails' name?
Lenny Dykstra.
Yeah, Lenny Dykstra. I don't know why I couldn't think of Lenny Dykstra for a second. Maybe I've just tried to keep him out of my mind for a little bit so I can keep that record just spotless. But he holds the record for most walks by Philly at 129. Schwarber was 3 off that mark. 3. That's wild.
That's well, honestly a remarkable season.
Yeah, it was a good season. I don't care that he hit under 200, which is wild. The years that I was like, who would want Joey Gallo on their team? But Schwarber is Joey Gallo on steroids. And
Schwarber.
Schwarber never hit this many home runs either. Like, he had a ton of power, but he
Mhm.
wasn't hitting 40 some home runs a season. This is a new development, which is just wild. Like, and he's been a clubhouse leader too. He's been just everything you've wanted him to be, except a good left fielder. But we didn't.
Honestly, but you weren't asking him to be
No,
that either. So
he wasn't supposed to be that.
yeah,
He wasn't. But saying about the home runs, like, he had 38 home runs 1 year, but that was the most he had before coming to Philly. Like, but he set a
Wall of
new
Famer,
record.
baby.
He set a new record for strikeouts for the Phillies franchise too, and led the league 216. That's 15 more than last year. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just weird.
It's cool though, because
He
he's
had
ours.
he had 40 more walks this year than last year.
More RBIs too. Like I
Yeah,
want to say like 10 plus
10
at least.
more. Yeah,
Yeah,
94 to 104. Looking at his baseball reference page right now,
that's
it
perfect, man.
just I 8 more runs scored, 2 less doubles, 2 less triples. Oh,
Brutal.
10 less stolen bases.
Yeah, I don't think he had any, did he?
No, he had none. He was
Yeah,
caught twice.
because remember it was Schwarber last year that
Who
stole a
got
base in
free
the World Series,
tacos
and we got free
for
tacos.
America?
Oh,
Yes,
he's a
I do
hero.
remember. He was an
Love you,
all-star last
Schwarbs.
year. I
Really nice guy
He
too.
was a Silver Slugger last year.
He was a Silver Slugger last year. On
But yeah,
left field, who's up for left field? Well, I guess it's just considered outfield. I'd have to look at that maybe.
is it?
I think it's just 3 outfielders.
Would
I
it
don't
be
think
like
it's.
Yelich? Because Yelich had a really good year, didn't he?
I mean, it's gonna be Betts, Acuna, and then one more. So
Right. Did Betts play mostly outfield, or did he play mostly like second base?
I think majority outfield.
Splits are on that. I'll look it up real quick because I do think he was the reason why the Dodgers did so well, because you can plug and play him wherever.
I mean, you also got to think. I'm just looking at like ranking by OPS: Acuna, Betts, Soto, Bellinger, Corbin Carroll.
Oh, I forgot about Belly.
Yeah, Schwarber's 9th in OPS for the National League.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that he gets another Silver Slugger this
No,
year,
yeah, but I was just trying to see
but
if like there's maybe an outside shot.
be
Does lead
funny.
outfielders in home runs.
So
Uh,
this will surprise you. 106 games in right field, so majority. You're right
mhm.
there. 70 games at second base, 16 at shortstop.
I did not think he played second that often.
Yeah, and I know that added up to more than 162, but I think he switched
Yeah,
positions
yeah.
in game a few times.
He's
But
not a big math podcast either. So
no, listen, I was decent at math in my days.
oh, I
I was
love this comment by Eric. Joey Gallo and hot dogs. That put that on a T-shirt.
I don't I don't
Please
know
put
what
that on a
he's
T-shirt.
referencing to.
No,
What is
you
he
said
referencing?
he's referencing you said Schwarber's Joey Gallo on steroids. He's saying he's Joey Gallo on
Joey
hot
Gallo on
dogs.
hot dogs. Got it. Got it. The
I
Ruth
love that.
method. The Ruth method. It just reminds me of that banner in the outfield. Wasn't that in
It was in
Citizens
Philly,
Bank
yeah.
Park?
Yeah.
Yeah. That Ruth did it on hot dogs and beer. Aaron did it.
I think
Who
Aaron
did
did it on
Aaron?
like Class or something like that.
Yeah, Aaron did it with class. And was it like Bonds did it with a needle sticking out of his? No.
I
Be
wonder if
funny if it rhymed.
oh here I found it's
Ah.
Ruth did it on hot dogs, Aaron did it with Class. How did you do it? And it's a
Oh, how
picture of
did you do it?
and Bonds kind of staring at the outfield. I love Philly.
Yeah.
I love Philly.
I love that that image was in Philly. Like, how many people did you have to coordinate
I
to
know.
like get that
Unless
huge?
they were just
It was a
like they brought it
huge
in,
banner too.
huge banner. Unless they brought it in, it was like, hey guys, guess what we're doing tonight? Pass this along.
Yeah,
So I don't know, man. Love Philly.
Yeah, it's different. I might not get to a playoff game this year though. I
I'm gonna try.
so it's not that I can't try. It's I might be in St. Louis.
Ooh.
Yeah, for work,
Well, make sure
but
you wear your
it's not
Philly stuff with
confirmed.
pride.
Oh, I will. Trust me, I will. I'm gonna remind everyone in that town who bounced from the playoffs last year, ended the career of Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols.
That's
So
us.
that was us. That was us.
All right,
Listen,
man.
they got 2011.
Yeah, we're even now.
Yeah, it's even.
Yeah,
It's
it's
even.
even.
We ruined two of your all-time greats' end of their career stories. You ruined our current stars' Achilles, and yeah. Anyway, but let me see if I have any other notes here that I want to mention about the season or things going forward. This was the 16th 90-win season ever in Phillies history. Uh, I surprised, but somehow not shocked that it is only the 16th time that has happened since 1883. Uh, but here we are. The last one, of course, being 2011. The first one being 1899, when the Phillies won 94 games,
That's
which
all
is
right. So I just did the math. They have won 90 games in 11% of their seasons.
eh,
I feel like that
it,
number makes me feel a little bit better.
it makes me feel a little bit better considering the span from I think it was 1917 to 1949, in which they had exactly 0 90-win seasons. So, and
I feel it.
exactly one winning season.
Go Phillies, baby.
Go Phils. God. But yep, so all the starts against the Fish are going to be 8:08 starts. So a little late, but everyone's going to be home for work for them. It's nice to have that prime time, baby.
Damn right. They want Phillies baseball on national TV for
They they
everybody.
they want the Phillies fans. They know what they want. We know what we'll give them.
Yeah. If you're going down to the ballpark, please make Miami never want to come back.
Yeah, and listen, Miami is someone who routinely has maybe 8,000 fans in the stadium, 10,000 on a good day. Show them what 40K is like, and make sure they're wearing their special pants.
Special pants.
I'm talking about their shitting bridges.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Time to put on your. Anyway. But yeah, no, I'd like to reiterate what Matt said. If you're going down, please just follow what everyone else is doing. Just figure it out. If it's your first time down and you're just like, "Oh, the Phillies are good, let me go," and you just somehow have connections, don't waste it. Don't be that person.
Hmm.
Just just channel the energy. Just keep it going. You saw what we did last year. That's our expectations. Me at Xfinity Live until 11 p.m., partying it up after the Phillies clinched to go to the World Series. Yeah, that's what I'm expecting from every one of you if you're of age. But
Drink responsibly.
for drinking, yes. But yeah, there's a lot of positive things to go here. And you know what? You know who we didn't even talk about?
What do you got there?
Nick Castellanos. Nick
Well,
Con
Nick
Cast
could
Nick
go deep
Castellanos.
in the playoffs, so we can after they win game one, we could do a live reaction of Nick's going deep to win the game.
Yeah, but like in the last like 2 weeks of the season, he homered twice to make it a 4-0 ball game.
That he did.
Yeah, twice. It was like within a week. I'm just like, let's go, finally. But he hit 29 home runs this year, 106 RBIs. He even had 11 stolen bases, which is nice.
Love that. Hey,
Yeah,
Get Liam to all these playoff games. Get him hyping up
yeah.
the crowd. Get the mayor out there. Um, love nothing more than for the mayor of Philadelphia to be in attendance.
Who, Eric?
Liam.
Oh, Liam is a fish. Oh, Liam
Yeah, Liam
Castellanos.
Castellanos. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, our boss is named Liam.
Oh my God, I would love the chaos that is Liam Jenkins at a.
I was imagining Liam wearing a sash with like a little top hat.
Put that on a
uh,
T-shirt.
Mayor of Philadelphia.
Oh my God. Yeah. If any T-shirt companies are watching or listening,
Y-
feel
You're
free to
giving
reach out.
we're giving ideas for free here.
We're handing them out for free. At least just give us
Yeah,
a free shirt. So hit my account.
just give
But
me one for free, and yeah, that's
yeah.
it.
The last thing I'll say for this is that, for everything Phillies related for this postseason run, however long it may be, check out Philly Sports Network. We're gonna have everything for you guys. We're gonna have a couple live streams coming up for you. Alec and I will plan. The entire Phillies team is gonna have a ton of Phillies content. Uh, I'll say this, between now and Tuesday before the first pitch, we're gonna have plenty of stuff getting you guys ready for that game, for that series. After the first game, we'll have a recap for you heading into game two, a game two preview, a game two recap, a game two celebration, and then we'll be previewing the Braves, and we'll go from there. But I'm just so happy that Red October is back for a second straight year. It feels like it never
Pain
left.
in the town, Red.
Pain in the town, Red, and this is the second time we're covering the postseason, so very excited for that.
We
But
started up this podcast back in was it around the All Star break last year?
yeah, we did like a first half review was our first episode last year, and
Yeah.
now we're two World Series runs in.
Remember
Yeah, I
when the
said it.
Cubs swept us out of the All Star break?
Nope,
And then remember when they swept us again?
nope. Remember
That
when the
was
Cubs didn't
fun.
make the playoffs yesterday? That was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, no. I guess all we have to say left is go Phils.
Go Phils, baby. Well, Alec, I don't know about you, but I'm ready for another World Series appearance.
God, God, I hope so. I just hope so.
Let's go Phils.
Let's go Phils.
See you guys. Peace.